Welcome to the Golden State Media Concepts Life and Happiness Podcast, the show that takes you on a journey of exploration. We'll discuss tried and true methods alongside the latest trends of how to best live your life to its fullest and happiest. From psychology to meditation, science to self-help books, the GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast will help you to discover what makes you happy and how you can live life being the best you possible.
GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Alyssa Jo. I'm going to talk to you today about self-sabotage. I think this is kind of something that we all do a lot of the time without realizing it, and it's actually really apparent in our lives, but we don't really see it because it's kind of hidden sometimes. So that's why I want to talk to you about it today, so that you can push through self-sabotage and achieve all your dreams and be happy in life and live the life you want. So if you don't know what self-sabotage is, I guess it's pretty self-explanatory, but basically you're creating a problem in your daily life that's going to interfere with your dreams, with your long-term goals, with what you want later on in life. The most really common kind of self-sabotage is procrastination, self-medication with drugs or alcohol, comfort eating, that kind of stuff. And like I said, you're often really not aware that you are self-sabotaging and that you're doing this to your own life, and it can be hidden and it can actually become a habit. And that's a lot of time why we don't see it as self-sabotage, because it's hidden behind our daily routine or something like that we just it's just naturally us. And I find a lot of people will make the excuses well, that's just who I am. I'm just always been like that. But you're really actually sabotaging yourself to be your full potential and to go after what you really want. And, it's hard enough to block out what other people say and to focus on you and, to go through all the obstacles that life throws at you without trying to put more obstacles on yourself, especially when you're not even realizing it. Life throws us so many curveballs. We need to try to, take care of ourselves and not sabotage our dreams and our goals and the things we want, because there's already so many things that we got to dodge, we got to work over, we got to figure out. So that's why it's so important to be in a healthy mindset, that you're not self-sabotaging yourself, so you can achieve those long-term goals, with your baby goals too, right? Your daily life baby goals that you go through every single day. That has a huge impact on your long-term goals and where you want to be later on. And so if there's something in your daily life that is interfering with your long-term goals, that is something that needs to be fixed. And if you caught last episode, I talked all about healthy habits and ways to implement sustainable healthy habits into your life. And none of those, of course, were involving self-sabotage. So I just want to talk to you today about self-sabotage and make sure that you're not, unknowingly self-sabotaging yourself for things in your life. Of course, you can also kind of know that you are self-sabotaging yourself, depending on the scenario, but it's different for everybody. But often we are not aware that we're doing it, and basically we disengage ourselves from what we want, from our own world, our own goals. We can make list after list of all of the goals we want to achieve, all the healthy habits we want to implement, all the things we want to do in our lives, where we want to be in 5 years. We can talk about it, we can write about it, we can, go after it and try to take baby steps to get to that point. But if you're constantly setting yourself back, especially when you're not knowing you're doing that, you're never going to reach that goal, or you're going to get there a lot slower, a lot more difficult. So it's important to be in the right mindset, in the right place, and, be encouraging yourself and pushing yourself to keep going forward. And we have to take action. But we have to make sure that those actions are proper for our dreams and what we want in our life and, like, what we're going after. And the thing with self-sabotage is that we continue to sabotage ourselves in so many aspects of life until we've created this mountain of just like self-defeat. You know, you're just like, have you ever just, felt so torn down, like everything is just like piled on top of you, and it's just like you just feel defeated. You feel done. You're done with your day. You're done with everything. You're done reaching after your goal because one thing after the other just keeps crashing you down, and it can be so hard to pick yourself back up. And a lot of this can be because of self-sabotage. We just create this mountain of I'm not good enough, I can't do this, or you put your procrastination, like all these different things that you can kind of put into your life unknowingly or subconsciously, kind of knowing that you're doing it but not knowing that you're doing it. And it eventually, you just build this mountain of self-defeat, and it leads you to low self-esteem, feeling worthless, hopeless, like you're never going to reach those goals. You're never going to get to where you want to be. You'll never accomplish anything in your life. And it just puts us in a hole that can be very difficult to climb out of. And we've dug ourselves out that own hole because of the habits, the actions that we've taken, not the curveballs that life has thrown at us, but the things that we have specifically done. And this can happen in so many aspects of our lives, in our careers, our friendships, relationships, your personal growth, while we're trying to develop those healthier habits, or when you're saving money and you want to focus on your health or weight loss, building healthy relationships or trying to move on from a relationship. We can self-sabotage ourselves in so many different aspects, and we don't even realize it half the time. You lose track, you mess up relationships, you don't get things accomplished, you don't perform as well as you like. These are all signs of self-sabotage. And the more that we self-sabotage, the more we're going to make ourselves feel bad. Then the cycle continues over and over and over again until we don't want to face things head on and we don't want to deal with them. And then we just keep sabotaging ourselves into this hole. It is literally a never-ending cycle of going around and around and around. And this can actually we don't realize how deep we are into this hole until it's too late, until it's so hard to climb out. And that's when I think a lot of people can hit a rock bottom. It's like, well, what happened? Why are you got no motivation, you got no drive, you have no energy left. It's like, why? And you can't pinpoint, exactly why. And it's because you've been subconsciously, knocking yourself down and you had no idea. And so it's just so important to make sure that we're standing and that we are, tackling our dreams and the things we want head on and in a healthy and happy mindset so that we're not trying to unknowingly sabotage ourselves or knowingly sabotage ourselves. The thing is we can unknowingly do it for there's so many different reasons for unknowingly self-sabotaging yourself, just even procrastination, and it's you're doing it but you don't, your comfort eating, things like that. But, or pushing people away and you're oh, I just don't have time right now. But maybe you're actually really scared of commitment, or getting out of a relationship, moving on from something. And you can't really move on if you you're always following your ex's Instagram posts or social media, you're setting yourself up to be sad by always looking back at all these things, or not moving on from the past. And then you can't get past your relationship. And then you compare things, right? You compare people, and or even with your weight loss stuff, it's oh, I worked out today so I can have this I can have this box of cookies or something like that. I deserve it. And there's a difference between rewarding yourself and unknowingly sabotaging yourself, because deep down after you eat those cookies you're gonna be upset at yourself for it, but you do it anyways. And it's just one of those things. You can either know you're sabotaging yourself or not know you're sabotaging yourself. And there's just so many different reasons. But the more that we do it, the more we make ourselves feel bad, we're never going to be able to lift ourselves back up, because we're just going to be crashing down into this hole so, so deep. And so I want to talk to you today about, stopping self-sabotaging if you are already doing it. I'm going to give you, some signs, if you are self-sabotaging yourself, why exactly we do these things for different aspects of our lives. What does that look like? How can we stop self-sabotaging altogether? How can we make sure that we never start self-sabotaging? I'm going to give you some of the aftermath effects of what happens when you do self-sabotage and just like different kind of triggers that might, I'm going to talk to you about something and you think, oh, wait, I do that. Yeah, you know what, maybe you are self-sabotaging in a different aspect of your life. It can be different for everybody. Like, if I say, like, some people procrastinate as a self-sabotaging method, and other people procrastinate because, well, it's kind of self-sabotaging, but maybe you just work really, really well under pressure. And it's different, right? And so self-sabotage is different for everybody, and because it also depends on what goals you're trying to reach, what you're trying to go after in life, who you want to be later on. So there's so many different reasons why we self-sabotage, and there's also a bunch of ways that we can stop self-sabotaging. So I'm going to go all the way through, to the why, the when, the how, and, mainly how to stop self-sabotaging. And hopefully I can give you some points so you're going to recognize, like, oh, like maybe I am doing that. But right after we get back from the break, I will fill you in on all the information, so don't go anywhere.
Are you tired of the same old news? Are you sick of the seemingly endless political spin and negativity? The GSMC America Still Beautiful podcast is a weekly news podcast covering all the top positive and uplifting news stories. We cover stories that will inspire, uplift, and remind you of the good in the world. Tune into the Golden State Media Concepts America Still Beautiful podcast to get all the great and positive news stories of today. Download the GSMC America Still Beautiful podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Welcome back to GSMC Life and Happiness podcast. Let's jump right into this information. I'm going to start talking to you about why we self-sabotage. And, I think this is the main point, the perfect place basically to start when you want or need to stop these actions and behaviors that I'm going to be listing off for you. When you can figure out why you're self-sabotaging yourself, then you can figure out how you can stop it and like what's your next kind of action plan afterwards. So some things that kind of make us sabotage ourselves are things like even cravings, like cravings for food or your addiction. Temptations in general can be very self-sabotaging, because we have goals, but we stop these because, our willpower isn't strong enough from, like, our craving. Like, we're craving those sweets. We're craving, our addiction, whatever it is. And that is self-sabotaging ourselves. That is a form of self-sabotaging because we're giving in to these temptations, these cravings, and it's stopping us from reaching, the goals that we want to do. It's really all about your thinking patterns and how you approach things, and it's all about your mindset, and it all starts to where you are and what you want. So faulty thinking can really kind of be a self-sabotage. Like, we cling to things that are normal to us, because we're scared of the risk or a failure or something like that. So we cling on to things that are comfortable, things that are normal, and then we overvalue the things that we know and devalue those risks or those things that are just unfamiliar to us, especially when we're under stress. We rely on the things that we're comfortable with, especially, when we're upset or we're unsure. We go back to what's normal because it's comfortable, it's not scary, we're not it's not a huge risk to us. We just go back to what's comfortable and we just stay there. And we cling on to these things, and we really do. We overvalue these things too much and devalue those risks and going outside the box and taking things, the step further that we need to because we're scared of failure, the risk, we're scared of, the unknown. Instead of just like going, we go back instead of sticking to our brains and actually going for the things that we truly want. And this is holding ourselves back. And this is a form of self-sabotage. When our brains are tired, when we're tired, when we're just exhausted, we're afraid of being trapped. We're afraid that, we can't get out, we can't be ourselves, and we just need to be staying in this comfortable situation, this comfortable pattern of life. We don't explore, because maybe we're scared of repeating the past. And this is just all faulty thinking, we're just scared, we're terrified of things, and we're not living life fearlessly. We're not going, we're not reaching for things that we want to go for. We're just kind of being held back with that comfortable. And this is what's, staying in your comfort zone is self-sabotage right there. And it's your faulty thinking that gets you stuck in that comfortable zone and where you just do not want to leave. And so you need to change your mindset. You need to change your perspective, your perception on it, and get out of that comfort zone. Do things that, maybe a little bit more risky for your life. We need to value those risks, those changes, what it's like outside that comfort zone. That's so much more valuable to our lives for our growth and what we want to go after than staying in that comfort zone. So literally being in your comfort zone is self-sabotaging yourself. And it's that faulty thinking that really kind of puts us in that place, or faulty thinking for anything can really self-sabotage us. Another thing too is the fear of intimacy or rejection. We often kind of stay in our bubble because we're all scared to be rejected, or maybe some of us are scared to be committed. So as soon as someone shows some interest, or we're in a serious relationship, and we kind of bolt the other direction sometimes, and that's a problem within us. We're upset about, we could be scared of commitment, we could be scared of the rejection, we could be scared of getting hurt again. We run away from that serious relationship because of things in the past. We think we can't handle it, that we might mess it up. It's like, oh, I sabotage everything else in my life, I'm going to sabotage this, and that's our faulty thinking again. There's two forms of self-sabotage right there. And so we have to get out of that mindset, and we can't be scared of taking those risks. And, we're all going to get rejected at some point. Being in a serious relationship, having close, serious friends, even that can be scary, because at any moment you feel like you could lose somebody. If we're constantly living like that, it's not living. I shouldn't even say if we're constantly living like that. If we're constantly coasting through life, scared to lose everything, scared to get hurt, scared to step outside our comfort zone, then we are constantly self-sabotaging ourselves from life itself, from experiencing things. Also, our lack of self-esteem can be a result of self-sabotaging, and it can also be the problem of self-sabotaging. If you have a low self-esteem, you just never think you're good enough. Maybe you just don't go after things, or you don't believe in yourself. You don't think you deserve something like that, right? So it can honestly be the result of your self-sabotaging, but it can also be the problem, because when you feel so low about yourself, you're not going to put yourself out there. You're not going to go the extra mile. You're not going to do any of that. You're just going to kind of hide back or sabotage anything that good comes to you, because you're I don't deserve this. So you really have to focus on your self-esteem and how you feel. We can also self-sabotage when we're not aligned with our beliefs, or if you're not sure of your beliefs. Because our beliefs and our core values line up with our thoughts and our feelings, right? So if you're not aligned with your beliefs, or if you're not sure of your beliefs, those are lining up with your thoughts and feelings. And, that's your faulty thinking coming into play again, right? If you're not in line with, what you really want, what you believe in, what you deserve, what you think you deserve, and all of that, you're going to fall into self-sabotaging patterns, because that's just your thought process. That's where you is. So you need to make sure that you know what you want, you know what you believe in, and, feel strong about yourself that way. Another one, too, is underestimating ourselves. We can underestimate ourselves and be no, I'm not good enough for this. I don't deserve this. Kind of ties in with self-esteem. But if you constantly feel like that, then you're always gonna be constantly sabotaging yourself for things, because you're never gonna actually hold yourself up to your full potential, because you just don't believe it. You underestimate, how great you really are. So self-doubt literally is equal self-sabotage, basically. I'm not good enough. Why would I even bother? When you're so stuck in your self-doubt, this is never gonna happen. I can't make this happen, it's too far-fetched. Well, then you're going to stay there, and you're going to sabotage opportunities that come to you, because you're not going to go after them, or you're going to, maybe not try your full hardest, because, you feel like, what's the point, or whatever the case is. And so this is a form of self-sabotaging. So when we have that deep self-doubt, we need to make sure that we are aligned with our beliefs and we know what we want, and we have to, not underestimate ourselves, and we have to be proud, and we have to believe in ourselves and go after those things. Another too is we're just dysfunctional. This all ties in, being aligned with your beliefs, being aligned with like who you are, what you want out of your life. And if you're just kind of living in chaos, it's kind of, it's self-sabotaging, because you're not actually going after the things that you want. You're just living in this bubble of craziness, and you can't function properly in that. And then you're going to have that self-doubt, you're going to have that low self-esteem, and you're going to be constantly self-sabotaging yourself. When you don't know your capabilities, when you don't believe in yourself, you're not going to go after the things you want. You must believe in yourself. Or suppressing your feelings. People kind of suppress their feelings because there's an underlying problem that you don't want to deal with. You ruin it for yourself because you don't actually want it, maybe, or you don't want to deal with the aftermath. And so we kind of press these feelings down, we don't deal with them, and eventually they are going to surface. You can't just keep pushing everything down. It doesn't work like that. And the more you bottle down, the more you just keep pressing, eventually you're going to explode. Things are going to explode. Your life might blow up way worse than it would have been if you just kind of dealt with what you needed to deal with at the time. The pressure and opinions from others, if you have the pressure from your family that you have to do something, so you kind of sabotage yourself to avoid it, that's like knowingly sabotaging yourself. You're like, yeah, I don't want to go, to this school. I don't want to move here. I don't want to do this. So you kind of sabotage it for yourself so that you don't have to do that. Due to the pressure of your family or your friends or just the opinion of others in general, people strongly think you can do, that you should be doing something. You might sabotage yourself, so there's no way that can even happen because it's truly just not what you want to do. Instead of just speaking up for yourself and be like, no, this is not what I want, you find a way to sabotage it, so there's just no possibility of it. So, when you're avoiding the truth, you're procrastinating, you're not wanting to accept what's really going on, what really needs to happen, even if you know it deep down. I find this happens a lot in, relationships. It's what needs to happen, or, it's not right, but you kind of hold on, because you're like, oh, maybe this time it'll get better, or maybe this, or any aspect in our life. In our jobs, it's like, oh, I don't like my job right now, but it'll get better, it'll be fine, but you're constantly living in this, cycle of unhappiness, and that's not how we should be living. We need to be living and going after the things that we truly, truly want. It is time for another break, but when we get back, I have a lot more information to share with you. You're stronger than you think. I'm going to jump into some specifics if you are self-sabotaging and how to get you out of that mindset and back to achieving all of your goals.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Into 4 pretty common self-sabotaging things that people do, and be specific on how you can stop doing that, okay? So the first one I want to talk to you about is jumping ship, bolting for the door when a relationship starts to get serious. There are loads of ways that you can kind of try to ruin your relationship. But usually the one kind of underlying cause is because you don't want to get hurt, right? So if you're running away as soon as things get serious, you probably don't want to get hurt. Maybe some things happened in your past. And so right before you kind of get in deep with your partner, you may find yourself, picking fights, being a little extra nitpicky, like, feeling a little bit off edge around them, trying to, like, not be, easygoing or something like that. And this is probably because deep down you'd rather not be in the relationship. And then you kind of become more vulnerable because you just don't want to get hurt like you have in past relationships or past aspects in your life in general. And so then you kind of just bolt the other direction. So how you can really stop doing this is just knowing, remembering that relationships may have similar patterns. It is kind of similar getting into a relationship with somebody and going through that process with somebody. But no two relationships are ever the exact same. You're not getting back with that person that hurt you. You're with a new person. It's a new start. It's not exactly the same. And there are so many myths out there about relationships that keep us from experiencing them itself. It's like there's so many different things out there that, like, scare us away from, like, being in a relationship or, like, going after that person that we want, or because we're scared of rejection and all these things. And so you just have to remember that not every relationship is going to go up in flames. It's not going to explode. Nothing's going to, freak out. And the thing is like, you have to take every opportunity as a time of growth. And so even if you are scared of getting hurt again, just know that you've grown from the last time you were hurt in a relationship. Not saying it's going to happen again, but you've grown from that. You've went through that, and you know that you're strong enough to pick yourself back up and do it again and try again. And I think that itself is amazing. So you have to focus on that. Like, look where I am now. And so the most crucial thing is just open communication with your partner about this. Be open and honest. Hey, look, like, this is how I feel. This is what happened in my past. I'm insecure about this because I've been hurt. And it's literally just communication. And I know that is so cliche when it comes to relationships, but, like, communication and just explaining, like, I don't want to self-sabotage this. Like, I do want this, but, like, there's, like, a part of me that's telling me to run, and, like, this is why. And, like, having that open and honest communication with your partner, like, you're able to be open and honest with them, and then you're open and honest with yourself so that you're not pressing down any of these feelings. You're actually dealing with them out loud, and you're examining the root of the problem for yourself, and you're letting your partner know about it. And so the more you talk about it, the more you're open, the more you'll also recognize things in the relationship that you do. It's like maybe you did pick, like, a really stupid fight, and then you kind of click, like, okay, I gotta stop. Like, I'm sabotaging this for no reason. And it's hard to realize sometimes. But once we can, like, if we're open and honest with ourselves, we're open and honest with our partner about it, then we notice and we can recognize those things that we're doing. And then we can change, our thought pattern. We can change our perspective, our perception, and we can get out of that pattern. Number 2 is procrastinating, especially on important tasks, big projects, big jobs, big work, whatever it is, or even just small things. Procrastination in general is, like, a huge thing for so many people. It seems so harmless when you're in high school and you, like, procrastinated, like, your test or whatever. But now, like, you're procrastinating, like, huge things in your life, things that you actually need to get done, things that are gonna make a difference for your career. And you just kind of keep thinking, like, oh, I don't feel like doing that right now. And there's this stupid, like, I just find that everyone thinks that you have to feel like doing something before you do it. But if you take the initiative and, you don't feel like going to the gym, but if you put on your workout clothes, you tie up your shoes, and you drive to the gym, your mood will catch up with you and you will go. You might not feel like it right away. You might have to drag your butt there, but once you're there, you're going to end up having a good workout, or at least you did something. You're going to be happy with yourself for doing something. And that's what's the most important. Same, with goals. If you're writing a paper or you have a big work meeting or something like that you need to prep for, if you just start it and you just start going, often you'll keep going. So we procrastinate for so many things, because we're scared of the change, we're scared of failure. Maybe you're a perfectionist, or you just want to avoid making a mistake. There's so many different aspects of why we actually procrastinate, but we need to stop that, and you have to really take a look into what's important for you and why you're putting those things off. Why are you avoiding it? And you have to think deeper, like, is this actually, like, I just don't feel like doing this right now? Like, what's stopping me? What's the block? If you're procrastinating, like, maybe applying for a job or like, just out of college, or a new job, a new career change, whatever it is, maybe you're actually, like, avoiding the responsibility of your financial problems that you might endure because of it, right? And so you're not avoiding the application, you're procrastinating the application, you're procrastinating actually having to think about your financial place and what's going to happen next. So if you think deeper to the root of the problem, why you're procrastinating, you might be able to get a new perspective, change your mindset. So when you can understand what's holding you back, then you can challenge those negative beliefs and fears, and you can take that baby step towards completing your task. Visualize your result, visualize what your end goal, and it's going to get you to do that. Or, like I said too, if you don't feel like doing something, just start. Easier said than done, of course, but 99% of the time when you just start doing it, you're going to keep going, and your mood will catch up to you, and all of a sudden you'll be like, oh, I'm like halfway down my application, and like, so quickly, and it's like, I didn't think I could do it. You'll be amazed at what you can accomplish if you just start doing it, if you just go full force and do it. Number 3 is masking your emotions with, it could be anything from substances like alcohol or drugs, or kind of like a procrastination aspect as well. It's, you don't want to deal with things, so you push it down, and maybe you cover it up with doing other things. You don't want to deal with things in your relationship, so you become a workaholic at work. Or maybe you do drink too much or something like that. You're going out too often because you're avoiding work. You're going out drinking. And so we kind of try to mask our emotions with all these different things, mainly because we don't want to deal with them, because we want to avoid how we're really feeling about it. But feelings aren't the enemy. So you have to stop this. You have to know that feeling is healthy, but you can't run away from that. And so you have to alternate your state of mind to purposely not think about your problems and the emotional toll that it might take on you, because you're basically setting yourself up for a breakdown. And you have to be strong enough to deal with those emotions and deal with those things. And maybe you just need a day to chill. Maybe you need a self-love day, or just relax. Maybe you do need a night out or something like that. But make an action plan. Make a list of, like, I need to do this or this and this and this tomorrow. And, I'm going to go out, or I'm going to go to a movie, or I'm going to do something else, whatever you want. But then, tomorrow, 8 a.m., I'm going to start this. I'm going to tackle it. I'm going to go after it. I'm going to deal with my emotion, deal with my problem. Deal with these things. Actually sit and think about it. Self-reflection can really help this, just writing things down on a piece of paper, or talking to somebody, like just have a conversation with your friend, a professional, your partner, your parents, whatever it is, and just have a conversation, because you need to stop bottling everything down and know that having those feelings is healthy, and you can't keep trying to mask it with other things. And lastly, imposter syndrome. So I don't know if you've heard what imposter syndrome is, but it basically means that you feel like an imposter in your own life. Like you're never going to do anything right. That you're never going to be good enough. You don't succeed. There's different types of imposters and people with imposter syndrome. It could be because you're a perfectionist. It could be because you overwork, all this other stuff. Like there's so many different aspects to it. But you basically feel like you're not deserving of what you get. And so, if you achieve something, you stop yourself from, celebrating that, because it's I didn't really deserve that, or I didn't, no matter how hard you worked, right? So, be your own cheerleader. Be proud of yourself. Grab a pen and a paper. Write down your accomplishment, even if it's a small thing. Fight that negative voice in your head to prove to yourself that you're capable of doing great work. because you are worthy of the success. You are worthy of all your goals and dreams. You are worthy of beating your self-sabotage methods that you do that are in your daily life or not in your daily life. You are worthy of all this. And so sit down with yourself, reflect, and understand that you are. And so it's so important to just be proud of yourself and believe in yourself when it comes to these things, because, you know, we can self-sabotage in so many different aspects, but you have to identify your root cause. You know, identify what you're exactly doing for each thing. No two people are the same when it comes to self-sabotage. Do your self-reflection. Have those positive thoughts. Change your mindset. Change your perception. You've got to change your perspective. Maybe you need to change your environment. Maybe you need a new surrounding. Maybe you need to surround yourself with new people. And then you won't fall back into those old patterns. You have to step outside your comfort zone to, you know, to really achieve the things you want to achieve. Maybe, just maybe you need to change your goal. If you're finding every single thing in the book to sabotage or avoid your goal, maybe it's something you don't really want. So sit down with yourself and actually check in on each and every goal that you want to accomplish. Do I really want this? Why do I want this? And dig deeper and deeper and deeper. The more you know your why, the more you're going to understand that goal, the more you're going to have a better and efficient action plan to tackle that goal, and then you're not going to be sabotaging yourself. So really sit down with yourself, know your goal, find the root of the problem, find why you want that, and then you're going to be setting yourself up for success. And for me, I heard this recently, and it blew my mind, the difference that it's made in my life for the first week that since I've heard this. And it's keeping a promise to yourself. If you want something, you're gonna say, I'm gonna achieve this goal. And promise yourself, I promise myself I'm gonna achieve this goal, or I promise I'm gonna do this. Think about it. Because we need to rely on yourself. So say your friend, you wouldn't rely on somebody that constantly flakes on you, constantly ditches you, that says they're going to go out with you on Friday night but always reschedules for another day, right? Or so why would you rely on yourself for when you say, I'm going to achieve this, or I'm going to wake up at 5 a.m. and go to the gym, and then you constantly don't wake up at 5 a.m. and go to the gym? You have to be reliant on yourself. You have to keep promises to yourself, just like you want to keep promises to your friends. When you promise your friend that you're going to go out on Friday night, you're going to stick to your word because you want them to be able to rely on you and you want to be a good friend. We have to be a good friend to yourself as well. So keep those promises to yourself so you're not going to be sabotaging. And the main thing to keeping those promises is actually knowing that those promises are something you really want. So identify your goals and why you really want them. And that's going to be the root of stopping all your self-sabotaging. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's episode of GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Alyssa Jo. I had an amazing time sharing this information with you, like always. Please do not forget to hit that subscribe button, like and follow us on social media, and leave a 5-star review. It is greatly appreciated. Till next time, thank you.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Life and Happiness Podcast, part of the GSMC Podcast Network. You can find the show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcasts on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type in GSMC to find all of our shows. From the GSMC Podcast Network, from sex and relationships to health and wellness, life and happiness, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's episode of the Golden State Media Concepts Life and Happiness Podcast.